can depend on for inspiration and motivation. Soar High doesn't only give news, it inspires you to be the better version of yourself. Don't just fly, soar high.
Wearing a mask reduces the forward distance travelled by an exhaled breath by at least 90%. And that is the key since the virus is spread through exhaled water droplets. Sky's Noel Phillips has this report.
Up close, this is the power of a cough. Until today, there had been no conclusive evidence of how effective face masks are in limiting the spread of COVID-19. But a new study by the University of Edinburgh has found that surgical masks like this, covering the nose and mouth, could significantly reduce the transmission of coronavirus.
And what we can see is that face mask actually can really make a big difference in terms of how much the air that we exhale can actually travel in front of us. You can see a reduction of at least 2/3. You can probably argue that when you cough, if you compare to some measurement taken in the literature, you can actually have basically an order of magnitude. So instead of traveling meters away, it will only travel tenths of centimeters, not even 1 meter.
When a person infected with COVID-19 coughs, they send tiny droplets filled with the virus into the air. Researchers say respirator masks, often used by medical staff, also offer a high level of protection. The hope is that today's findings may lead to the UK government changing its position on face masks being worn in public instead of coverings such as scarves and cloths. Ministers have long warned the public against wearing surgical masks for fear demand would leave the NHS facing a shortage. But that hasn't stopped some people choosing to wear them for protection.
I just wear when I go to the supermarket or in a closed places.
Just a protection, self-protection. I don't know how much protection it actually gives, but...
Social distancing, people don't really take notice of it, so yeah, you got to be careful. So you never know what's going to happen, so I just always wear it.
Despite claims that they may help in tackling the coronavirus, experts say there are risks that come with wearing surgical masks.
So when you cough inside one of those masks, you might decrease the distance traveled by the air in front of you, but you might actually eject air in different directions, for example, backwards. So if there is a person behind you, the person behind you might actually receive much more of your exhaled air than the person in front of you if you are wearing a mask.
Face masks are a symbol of our new normal. But while they don't offer complete protection, wearing them can save others around you. Noel Phillips, Sky News.
This is Sky News Today. Coming up, how a simple text message could bring us all closer together during the coronavirus pandemic. Well, people are being encouraged to show their support for key workers around the world and those who find themselves feeling isolated due to the coronavirus pandemic. An initiative launched by Cinch with the support of Mental Health America called Text for Humanity has been set up in an effort to bring people together. Well, let's hear more about it from Cinch's Chief Marketing Officer, Jonathan Bean, who is in Stockholm. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Bean. Tell us about this idea.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It's a pretty simple idea, actually, essentially where we have set up a messaging switchboard which enables people to connect with one another, send messages of support and positivity to whether you be a key worker, someone in isolation, or even just a person that's at home and bored in need of a bit of a boost.
And this is people who don't know each other, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's connecting strangers from all over the world. We've had about 83,000 messages sent over the services from 85 countries over the last few months. So yeah, the idea is that you sign up and join the service, and then you write some words of positivity that you think someone would like to receive, and then you send that off, and that gets sent to someone across the other side of the world potentially, and then you get a message in return.
And this is a free system, is that right? It doesn't cost people to do it.
Absolutely right. It's a free system. You can either use text message, or you can use WhatsApp, or you can use Facebook Messenger, and then the Cinch technology simply, sends the message to a channel of a person's choice where they are. And
can you give us some idea of the sort of messages which you've seen, or I suppose, do they remain private?
So we can't actually see the data themselves in terms of the messages that some of the people are receiving. But what we can see is what people have shared on social media. You can have a graphic and you can share that in social media. And they range really from just some heartfelt words of support and positivity to some sort of more comedic messages, thinking about sort of the lighter things of life.
And is this is targeted at care workers or people generally who are feeling it all a bit difficult during lockdown?
Well, I think it started as an initiative connecting strangers all over the world, actually, in need of positivity. So you had sort of mental health advocates like sort of Stephen Fry and other people like that supporting the service. And as the COVID situation came around, I mean, Cinch found itself powering mobile technology and communications for healthcare institutions, financial services, travel companies getting people back. The NHS, for example, we've just sent out 100 million messages rearranging people's appointments. And we thought, what could we do with this Text for Humanity to support in this crisis? So we're allowing people to send to key workers, and I think that could be, a delivery driver, that could be a cleaner, that could be a supermarket worker, or it could be somewhere in the healthcare service. We've also identified this other group of people, who could be in isolation. They could be elderly, not necessarily with access to a smartphone, but definitely be able to receive a text message, or just another person at home that's bored. I've seen sort of surveys from the Office of National Statistics, which says that over 50% of people are feeling really, really bored, and that could lead to mental health issues. So you can actually choose in the service who you want your message to go to.
Now, if you want to take part in Text for Humanity, you either want to send a message or perhaps you feel you'd like to get a boost by receiving one. What do you need to do?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You can go to textforhumanity.com, or you just text JOIN to 07480357002. But I suggest that people just go to Text for Humanity. They can either get in and send a WhatsApp there, they can send via Facebook message, or they can send via normal text message. And then you just text JOIN, and then one of Cinch's bots will just take you through a very simple, collect a couple of details, and send that message off to you. And then within 10 seconds or so, you will actually get a message back from someone that's wanted to send a message of positivity in exchange. Now, mentioning positivity, sadly, anyone on social media knows that there are trolls out there who can be pretty unpleasant. Do you have any way of screening messages to make sure that people who want to do that sort of thing aren't able to? Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. I mean, as a company like Cinch that sends messages to some of the world's largest, both companies and government organizations, we've made sure that we have a layer of technology which is picking up the language and any abusive language in that. And we also have an element of human moderation for those, messages that are picked up that are abusive, that they go to a human moderation and then they're actually simply deleted. So yeah, all the messages are moderated, both using technology and humans at the end of the day.
Okay, Mr. Bean, thank you very much indeed. That is Text for Humanity. You can look it up online if you want to take part. Let's have a look at the weather. Well, things are more unsettled than recently, but there is still warm sunshine to enjoy. Most of this morning's showers will clear northeastwards across the UK, leaving a fine warm afternoon, although not quite as hot as yesterday. However, eastern parts of Britain will remain at risk of thunderstorms with hail and gusty winds. Later on, cloud will thicken across southwest Ireland, bringing heavy rain. Well, coming up, we'll have more on the breaking news that Boris Johnson won't face a criminal investigation into his relationship with the American tech entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri. You're watching Sky News at midday. Our headlines. Breaking news. Sky News understands Boris Johnson will not face a police investigation into allegations over his links with the American tech entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri. 7 separate groups of migrants attempting to cross the Channel have been taken into custody in just one morning.
We can see the French patrol boat Aramis circling the area, while the border force vessel Speedwell is now down in front of the migrants' boat. They've just got them to stop their engines. They're about to try to get the migrants from that boat transferred onto their vessel.
New statistics reveal different employment types. Sex and age had little impact on whether or not a person tested positive for COVID-19. And the new COVID antibody kits. Sky News gains exclusive access to the lab where the tests are being prepared. Plus, retail by robot, the new normal in Thailand's shopping centres as the country comes out of lockdown. And we start with breaking news. Sky News understands the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, will not face a police investigation into allegations over his links while Mayor of London with the American tech entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri. And joining us now is our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen, who has the details. Tamara.
Adam, that report will be coming out shortly, but I understand it will find that the Prime Minister did not commit any wrongdoing. According to this report by the Independent Office of Police Conduct, there is no criminal case for the Prime Minister to answer over his relationship with the American entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri. You'll remember he was referred last year after it was revealed that when he was Mayor of London and of course responsible for policing, that's why the police watchdog has looked into this, it was revealed that he had taken her on a number of official trade trips and that her company had secured funding from the Mayor's promotional agency, London and Partners, to the tune of over £10,000. So he was referred with a view to possible charges of misconduct in a public office. But I understand the Independent Office of Police Conduct have found that there is no case to answer for the Prime Minister. So I think there'll be sighs of relief in Downing Street that they hope that this chapter will come to an end.
I've seen a reference from other news sources that the investigation does refer to a possible intimate relationship between the two. Is that what you understand?
I haven't heard that, Adam. Certainly, they were described as having a close friendship. The Sunday Times, who broke this story, cited sources saying that she said he was one of her best friends. Jennifer Arcuri herself has given TV interviews talking about their close friendship, and other people have alleged that the two of them were having an affair. But I'm not sure whether the IOPC report actually goes into the nature of their relationship, but certainly it's been widely reported to have been a very close friendship. Miss Arcuri herself said on television in the last few months that she thought Mr. Johnson should have declared their friendship officially when he was Mayor of London, and she claimed that he was concerned that people might wonder if there was a conflict of interest.
Well, more details on that report, of course, as it's published. Thank you very much indeed, Tamara. Sky News has seen migrants being rescued after a number of boats attempted to make the dangerous crossing from France to the United Kingdom. At least 65 people are now in UK Border Force custody. This comes as the government promises to get tough on migrant crossings, with hundreds of people having been intercepted during the coronavirus lockdown. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Mark White, has been on a boat in the English Channel this morning. Mark.
Shortly after 2 a.m. this morning, as we headed out into the pitch black to the middle of the English Channel, looking out for the now regular stream of migrant boats trying to cross from France to the UK. And it really didn't take long at all. It was as the sun rose in the sky over these busy shipping lanes, the first migrant boat came into view. Now, we counted 13 migrants on that boat, some waving and shouting as they got nearer to us. The vessel was being shadowed by a French patrol boat at this time, and then coming into view was a border force vessel as well, just as the migrant boat crossed from French territorial waters into UK territorial waters. Here's a flavour of what we saw. We can see the French patrol boat Aramis circling the area, while the border force vessel Speedwell is now down in front of the migrants' boat. They've just got them to stop their engines. They're about to try to get the migrants from that boat transferred onto their vessel. Now, this French patrol vessel, the Aramis, had been shadowing this migrant boat pretty much from the moment it left the beach near Calais, and for 2 hours until it crossed into UK territorial waters. And it didn't, from what we could see, make any efforts to intercept the migrant boat. When Border Force came into view as it crossed into UK territorial waters, then that vessel did shut down its engine, and those migrants did get on board that Border Force vessel and it was taken off to Dover Harbour. Now, of course, UK authorities say that the French are as willing as they are to try to clamp down on migrants crossing the Channel, but there are those who are regularly on the waters here in the English Channel who are not quite as convinced.
To be honest, that's not the first time I've seen that. It's quite regular. You know, that they don't seem so interested in stopping the vessels as they do sort of escorting them across.
Yeah, but it intercepted that vessel in French waters.
It did, yeah, just a few miles from the shore. So, you know, I mean, it was a few hours past before they reached the actual border in the middle of the Channel.
Well, that patrol boat, Speedwell, headed back to Dover, as I said, but en route there it was diverted to another migrant boat that was in difficulty, some 6 migrants on board that vessel, so it had 19 in all as it then headed into Dover Harbour and a makeshift processing centre for migrants there. At the same time, the lifeboat from Dover was involved in 2 separate rescues. The cutter Searcher was involved in another migrant interception, as was the Border Force vessel Hunter. So 7 incidents during the time that we were in the English Channel.
Mark White reporting. A new survey from the Office of National Statistics has found that an individual's job, sex or age had little impact on whether or not they contracted COVID-19. The findings are based on test results from private households between the 4th and 17th of May. The survey found that only 0.24% of people working in so-called patient-facing roles tested positive for COVID-19. That includes NHS professionals such as nurses and doctors, as well as social care workers. The percentage of people not working in these types of roles and testing positive was also at 0.24%. The data revealed that 0.26% of females tested positive to COVID-19 compared with 0.21% of males. It also found 0.32% of the population aged over 70 contracted the virus, while 0.26% of children between the ages of 2 and 11 tested positive. Well, Sky's Ashna Hurinag joins me. And, you know, what's really interesting about these statistics, apart from the lack of difference between groups of the public, is that it's a tiny percentage. It's 0.25%. 1 in 400 of people who tested positive.
Yeah, we really are talking about less than 137,000 people when we talk about how small these statistics are kind of to read out. I suppose the numbers, in a sense, are quite staggering. This is basically an infection survey, and it's based around a major study being done by the Office for National Statistics. It involves sending out lots of nose and throat swab testing kits to private households, but just in England. And this particular finding is based on evidence gathered for the first 2 weeks of May. They essentially send their swabs over to the ONS, they're analysed, and that's where we're getting this data from. So we know that so far 14,599 people have been tested in this way for this survey. But the most probably surprising statistic in all of that for me, Adam, is finding out that you're no more likely to contract COVID-19 if you work on the front line. The data found that 0.24% of frontline workers, and that includes NHS professionals, as you say, doctors, nurses, but also health and social care staff as well, tested positive. But at the same time, for people that didn't work on the front line or didn't have jobs relating to that sector, also 0.24% of them also tested positive for coronavirus. The ONS also said that there was no evidence that you had increased level of infection in men compared to women. And this data, I think it's important to remember, has only been gathered in England. The ONS do want to widen this out to Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland as well. But also particularly just for people in private households. And that means people working in the hospitals, people in hospitals and people in care homes haven't been counted in this data.
Okay, fascinating and important stuff. Thank you very much indeed. The government has insisted its COVID-19 track and trace programme will be ready by June in spite of technical issues with its smartphone app. In an interview with Kay Burley at breakfast, the Security Minister, James Brokenshire, said the contact tracing system could still be effective even if the app is not fully operational.
We want to see the app rolled out. Work continues at pace in relation to that, learning from the experience in the Isle of Wight so that that can be adopted more broadly. And again, provide that additionality to the track and trace system.
Mr. Brokenshire, you need the app for this to work. Let's be honest. No, well, as I've explained, Kate, the work that is ongoing and this recruitment of 24,000, 25,000 people. So why bother with the app then? Why bother with the app if you don't need it? It's the additions that provides. It provides extra support for this, but it does not mean that we cannot have a good and effective track and trace capability in place from the beginning of June.
The government's lockdown exit roadmap says app-based contact tracing is a key element of the test and trace system. This is how it might work. When person A meets person B, their phones exchange a code. If someone becomes infected, they update their status in the app. Everyone they've been in contact with will get an alert and be told to self-isolate. It's being tried out on the Isle of Wight. But up to 60% of people need to use the app for it to be really effective. Yesterday, Boris Johnson focused on another element of the system, human contact tracers. He says by the 1st of June, 25,000 tracers will be in place to gather information manually and contact people. Human trackers will, according to the Prime Minister, be capable of tracking the contacts of up to 10,000 new COVID-19 cases a day. Well, let's get more from Sky's political correspondent, Kate McCann. So Boris Johnson says it's all going to work by the 1st of June, is it?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, Adam, because it needs to if the government is going to be able to reopen schools for primary school children, for example, get people back to work and start reopening some of the bits of the economy which are really raring to go, including some of those outside businesses that we've heard so much about, and maybe even getting people to go on holiday in this country over the summer. The key to that, though, is keeping the R rate, the transmission rate, below 1. And to do that, you need to be able to map where cases are spreading across the country and to identify people who might be infected and get them to isolate. And of course, as we've said many times before, trace, track and isolate is the key to this system. Now, the government had originally started talking about an app and everybody got very excited about it. We're now seeing them shift to talking about human-based contact tracers with the app as a supplementary part of this system. And it's really interesting, actually, that there was an intention inside the government to try and release this, more details of this contact tracing system this week, but there was a sense that actually it needs to have the full confidence of the country in order to do that. And so they've held back to try and get things more up and running and more secure before they do start talking us all through exactly how that system is going to work. What we know is that 25,000 contact tracers have been recruited. Mr Johnson says there'll be a world-beating system in place by the 1st of June, and that will involve people phoning up to say they think they may have coronavirus, handing over the details of their most recent contacts, and they will in turn then be contacted to make them aware that they may need to isolate themselves. There are some questions though, potentially about how the app will link into that system and about how testing will work too, because this system is going to rely on quick turnarounds when it comes to tests in order to make sure everybody knows whether or not they have the virus and whether or not they have to isolate. At the moment, some tests are taking 6-7 days to come back, so that system needs to be refined before this new test, track and trace system will be able to be in place effectively. And if it isn't, then it's going to be really difficult to open up the economy again, get people back to work and school without seeing that R rate increase, and that means the potential for a second peak of this virus, which the government really wants to avoid.
Thank you very much indeed, Kate McCann there. Now, here's something coming up on Sky News you can take part in. In the week from the 1st to the 4th of June, Dermot Murnaghan is going to host After the Pandemic, Our New World. It's a series of special live programmes about what world will be like once the pandemic's over. Dermot will be joined by some of the biggest names from the worlds of culture, politics, economics, science and technology, and you can take part too. If you'd like to be in our virtual audience to put questions to the experts, go to skynews.com or the Sky News app and follow the instructions on how to apply. And don't forget, you can also join us live on Sky News tonight as the nation gathers once again to clap for carers. Sky News, that's tonight at 8 p.m. Sky News has had exclusive access to one of the 4 UK hospitals which will offer antibody tests to patients in the next 7 to 10 days. The tests will show if a person has coronavirus and could be part of the scientific route out of lockdown. Tom Parmenter has this special report from the Royal Preston Hospital.
They just keep coming. Sample after sample to Rhiannon's desk in Preston. A lot of them are here for COVID testing to tell if someone currently has the virus.
It's quite a good turnaround. I think so. We hit the highest sample number yesterday, so it's going to get increasing more and more.
Nationally, the number of people having COVID tests is now rising fast. But it's down in the blood sciences lab where they've got something new. A test for antibodies to COVID-19 that should tell you if you've previously had it.
If you've got antibodies there, then you have had that disease. That will help the public health doctors decide how to unlock where we're going to go as a society, to see how many of us may have caught the disease, to see how many of us have had antibodies to the disease. So it's really giving them the intelligence and information about how many of us have got the antibodies so they can make the public policy decisions.
The new method they're piloting here and elsewhere analyses blood from a patient. The positive or negative result will pop up on Deborah's screen.
My family are quite excited that we are starting this, yeah.
Really?
So I have told them, yeah. So, yeah, looking forward to them being tested as well as me, and then, hopefully all the staff will be tested.
It could allow people to make better informed decisions.
Especially in the healthcare system, where some of our staff may have had it previously, we might want to think about deploying those staff to look after patients who have the disease, because they might have some protection.
The target is to have mass antibody testing underway in here by June the 1st. This is a big step forward, but it can't yet answer all the questions that we have. And the idea of something like an immunity passport, giving people the freedom to get on with their lives, knowing they won't catch the virus again, well, that is still a long way off. The tests here will be blood samples taken by medical professionals. But finger prick tests that people can do themselves are also in the pipeline. Tom Parmenter, Sky News, Preston.
To the relationship between Jennifer Arcuri and Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London. As we've been reporting, the police have announced that there will not be a criminal investigation into that relationship. However, The GLA, the Greater London Authority, has put out a statement announcing that it will continue with an investigation into Mr. Johnson's relationship. It says, our investigation will consider whether Boris Johnson conducted himself in a way that's expected from anyone in the position of mayor. It's important we get those answers because Londoners deserve to have their politicians accountable. The Oversight Committee will take into account the current emergency, looking at the timetable of the investigation. Principles of public life include integrity, selflessness, openness and honesty, the GLA says, and it will continue to investigate that with reference to Boris Johnson's period as mayor and his relationship with the American entrepreneur Jennifer Arcuri. You're watching Sky News Today. Coming up, the special measures Thailand is taking in its shopping centres as it lifts lockdown.
The first daily briefing announcing some highly significant changes to the way we are going to live our lives.
Nobody thought they'd be treating so many so quickly.
Something nobody expected.
What are you most worried about at the moment?
Their way of life could be a huge contributing factor.
I think your reports have been excellent to shine a light on an area that doesn't get as much attention.
This is the biggest challenge this country has faced since the war.
This is SOAR High TV Network, a place you can depend on for inspiration and motivation. SOAR High doesn't only give news, it inspires you to be the better version of yourself. Don't just fly, soar high.
Alone. Uncertainty. Doubt. Fear. In a strange place. Something stops you. Challenges test your strength. A rush of adrenaline. The light. The air. It is the moment. You elevated.